Hello, you're watching Wednesday edition of News Mongolia. Today is September 7th. For our top stories. First conference of women parliamentarians was held today. Groundbreaking ceremony held for an India-Mongolia secondary school in Ulaanbaatar. Global Digital Dialogue 2022 online conference was held. For other news, stay tuned. Marking the 30th anniversary of Mongolia's constitution and the establishment of the modern parliament, the first conference of women parliamentarians was organized by Parliament's Standing Committee on State Development and the UNDP's Supporting Gender Equality and Women's Participation at the Decision-Making Level project. Women members of Parliament and other government officials participated in the conference.
The Conference of Women Parliamentarians is an important part of the implementation of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and Mongolia's long-term development policy, Vision 2050, to increase the participation of women at the decision-making level. The conference discussed the international legal framework supporting women's political participation and the current state of women's political participation in Mongolia.
Today we should think about the benefits of raising the quota for women. Today's society is becoming very cruel all over the world. Peace is being lost here and there, and environmental destruction is taking place. In such cases, women can anticipate greater risks. It has been proven all over the world that women work very well to de-escalate tensions. According to studies, the situation for women has declined since the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. Employment has fallen sharply. This is because women look after their children and the elderly. According to a recent survey, women are more likely to be affected by poverty. Also, the number of single women increased and divorce is on the rise.
As of 2021, 50.9% of Mongolia's population and 52% of all voters were women. In 2018, Mongolia was ranked 58th out of 149 countries in the World Economic Forum's annual Gender Gap Index, 79th out of 153 countries in 2020, and 69th out of 156 countries in 2021. However, Mongolia ranks 116th out of 156 countries in terms of women with political power, which is below the global and Asian average. Many factors can increase women's political participation and representation at the decision-making level, such as improving the legal framework for gender equality, public support, shifting social attitudes, political financing and electoral system reforms, and changing the policies and efforts of political parties.
Recommendations are being developed for the legal framework and international best practices for increasing women's participation in decision-making in Mongolia. Women's participation is very important. It is said that women are good at solving problems at the decision-making level. When looking at Scandinavian countries, they don't have social welfare issues, and the participation of women is very high. That's why we must do work in this area.
According to a Social Policy and Development Research Institute study on women's participation in decision-making, there's a high tendency for the Mongolian public to support women. Over 80% of the respondents said that they were confident that women can work at the public policy and legislation levels. The men and women who participated in individual interviews noted that the characteristics of being educated, honest, businesslike, responsible, decisive, and capable are grounds for trusting women in political leadership. The survey data refuted the popular saying that women don't support each other. It was found that women support other women 70% more than men.
On September 6th, a groundbreaking ceremony was held for an India-Mongolia secondary school in Ulaanbaatar. The school will be built for 1,200 students in the Dasan area.
On May 17, 2015, a Memorandum of Understanding on establishing the school was signed. The Mongolian side was responsible for acquiring the land, and the Indian side was responsible for the school's construction and infrastructure. In 2021, Ambassador of the Republic of India to Mongolia, MP Singh, met with Deputy Minister of Education and Science Kambair to approve the finding from India. An operations consultant was selected in December, followed by the selection of a construction company.
In this special area of district, we only have one public secondary school in each private secondary schools which provides educational services for students. Undoubtedly, we have chosen right place for the secondary school. We, Ministry of Education and Science of Mongolia, provided drones of the secondary schools to Indian Embassy in Mongolia. The school will be able to provide education services to 1,200 students, will have all modern facilities for science and IT laboratories. And we are eager for the school specialized in IT information technology. We are hoping that construction will commence very soon to start receiving students from 1st of September of next year, which is 2023. At this moment of the celebration, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to everyone whose dedication and effort have contributed to preparation of this groundbreaking ceremony. In particular, I would like to thank His Excellency Mr. Singh, Ambassador of India to Mongolia, and our Vice Minister Gambayar Gambol, and the insights, dedications, support, and friendship have made the foundation of the Friendship Secondary Schools and the reality. I would like to say I'm very confident through our efforts and commitment, we will be able to achieve more and continue to develop more stronger relationships and friendships between people of Mongolia and India.
Indian and Mongolian officials have agreed to hold weekly meetings to expedite the school's construction. India's Defense Minister Rajnath Singh is currently on an official visit to Mongolia. He attended the school's groundbreaking ceremony along with Ambassador of the Republic of India to Mongolia MP Singh, Minister of Education and Science Inha Matlang, Deputy Minister of Justice and Home Affairs Solongo, and other state officials. Following Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Mongolia in 2015, an agreement was signed to provide English language training to 1,000 Mongolia's general education school teachers. In 2016, 76 teachers from Ulaanbaatar and provinces were enrolled in 2-month English language program in India.
Global Digital Dialogue 2022 online conference was held from September 5th to 6th with over 400 participants from 5 countries.
It's been 4 years since Mongolia made a major shift to the digital delivery of government services. Today, citizens can access around 600 government services online. Experts note that a good legal and regulatory environment has been key to the success of Mongolia's digital transformation. Many other countries are making moves to go digital. At the Global Digital Dialogue, international experts discussed goals for enabling digital nations and shared their experiences.
Mongolia is cooperating internationally to share best practices in digital transformation. At today's conference, we have participants from the international telecommunications industry and countries with successful digital transformations. The telecommunications sector supports free competition. It develops through partnership between state and private entities, so we'll focus on these partnerships in the upcoming years.
The ministry also noted that the country's digital platform for government services was made possible by support from the Estonian Academy of Sciences and the government of Estonia. Today, Mongolia is recognized internationally as a country that has successfully made a digital shift through a well-rounded legal environment. Officials and policymakers from Bangladesh, Estonia, India, New Zealand, and Australia attended the Global Digital Dialogue 2022. Using digital technology for business, trade, and the education sector and achieving the UN's Sustainable Development Goals was discussed during the 2-day conference.
I would like to highlight
Now let's take a look at the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Here comes the international news from our partner agencies. Liz Truss became UK Prime Minister on Tuesday and immediately faced up to the enormous tasks ahead of her, curbing soaring prices, boosting the economy, easing labor unrest, and fixing a national healthcare system burdened by long waiting lists and staff shortages.
Truss quickly began appointing senior members of her cabinet as she tackles an inbox dominated by the energy crisis triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which threatens to push energy bills to unaffordable levels, shuttering businesses and leaving the nation's poorest people shivering at home this winter. Truss, Britain's third female prime minister, named the top team diverse in gender and ethnicity, but loyal to her and her free market politics. Kwasi Kwarteng becomes the first black UK Treasury chief, and Therese Coffey its first female deputy prime minister. Other appointments include James Cleverly as foreign secretary and Suella Braverman as home secretary, responsible for immigration and law and order.
The UN Atomic Watchdog Agency urged Russia and Ukraine on Tuesday to establish a nuclear safety and security protection zone around the Zaporizhzhia power plant amid mounting fears the fighting could trigger a catastrophe in a country still scarred by the Chernobyl disaster.
The head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Rafael Grossi, warned the UN Security Council of an impending catastrophe days after leading an inspection visit to the plant. In a detailed report on its visit, the IAEA said shelling around Europe's largest nuclear power plant should stop immediately. This requires agreement by all relevant parties to the establishment of a nuclear safety and security protection zone around the plant, it said. At a Security Council meeting on Tuesday, UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres likewise demanded that Russian and Ukrainian forces commit to halting all military activities around the plant and agree on a demilitarized perimeter.
As a first step, Russian and Ukrainian forces must commit not to engage in any military activity towards the plant site or from the plant site. Zaporizhzhia facility and its surroundings must not be a target or a platform for military operations. As a second step, an agreement on a demilitarized perimeter should be secured. Specifically, that would include a commitment by Russian forces to withdraw all military personnel and equipment from that perimeter, and the commitment by Ukrainian forces not to move into it.
Asked by reporters about establishing a demilitarized zone, Russia's UN ambassador Vasily Nebenzia said the proposal is not serious. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said his country needs to look at the specifics of the protection zone proposal and could support the measure if it envisions the demilitarization of the plant.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. Representatives for the men's and women's U.S. national teams on Tuesday signed their historic collective bargaining agreements with U.S. Soccer, formally closing a long and sometimes acrimonious fight over equal pay.
The federation announced in May that it had struck separate agreements with the players' unions on contracts that run through 2028. The new contracts include identical pay structures for appearances and tournament victories, revenue sharing, and equitable distribution of World Cup prize money. A signing ceremony was held following the women's friendly match against Nigeria at Audi Field in Washington, with Secretary of Labor Marty Walsh among those on hand.
This is going to affect not only our sport, not only sports, but it will affect across the world in many industries. So thank you all for being here, and I can't wait to sign that piece of paper.
After years of struggling for equitable pay and treatment, the U.S. women filed a federal gender discrimination against U.S. Soccer in 2019. The lawsuit drew international attention, prompted fans to chant equal pay when the United States won the Women's World Cup final in France. In February, the two sides settled the lawsuit, with U.S. Soccer agreeing to pay the women $24 million. But the settlement was contingent on reaching new labor agreements with both teams. The men had been playing under the terms of CBA that expired in December 2018. The women's CBA expired at the end of March, but talks continued after the lawsuit was settled. The sticking point in negotiations was World Cup prize money, which is based on how far a team advances in soccer's most prestigious tournament. While the US women have been successful on the international stage with back-to-back World Cup titles, differences in FIFA prize money meant they took home far less than the men's winners. American women received a $110,000 bonus for winning the 2019 World Cup. The US men would have received $407,000 had they won in 2018. The unions agreed to pull FIFA's payments for the Men's World Cup later this year and next year's Women's World Cup, as well as for the 2026 and 2027 tournaments.
Legendary basketball player Sue Bird bid farewell to the sport Tuesday night when her Seattle Storm lost to the Las Vegas Aces, who advanced to the WNBA Finals.
As she spoke, fans were chanting "Thank you, Sue" in the Seattle arena. Bird, 41, announced in June this season would be her last. In her final game, she finished with 8 points and 8 assists.
I think initially you feel sad about the season and the game. Or I felt sad about the season and the game. And I then think as the emotions started to come to the surface, that's also what I know deep down, and in that was my last game. So it was a combination of those two things. But overall, it just feels kind of weird.
The Aces held off the Storm 97-92 in Game 4 in the best-of-5 semi-final series, with Chelsea Gray shooting a team-high 31 points along with 10 assists. Breanna Stewart led Seattle with 42 points, tying Angel McCourty for the most in a WNBA playoff game. The Aces will play either the Chicago Sky, the defending WNBA champion, or the Connecticut Sun in the WNBA Finals. The Sun beat the Sky on Tuesday night to force a winner-take-all Game 5. Bird, the #1 overall pick in the 2002 WNBA draft, is the league's all-time assist leader and a 13-time All-Star. She played her entire career with the Storm, where she has won 4 championships along with 5 selections to the All-WNBA First Team and a record 12 All-Star Game appearances.
Here comes the weather forecast for the world's major cities. This is it for today. Thank you for staying with us. We'll see you tomorrow with more news updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.